my name's Ken Bibrai. I'm a site selector with Savills, and then also kind of double as a thought leadership podcast, webinar, whatever, host of Coffee with Ken, which we created during the pandemic. So we've loved these conversations because they really strike at that nexus of public sector, private sector, and nonprofit impact. So it's like where the Venn diagram comes together is where we like to have all conversations, and no better setting than being here with Jason and Virginia Economic Development Partnership and all of you to talk about how we're creating ecosystems to enhance opportunities for companies that are expanding, whether on the office side or the manufacturing side. So maybe right off the gate, we could talk a little bit about why Virginia has been so successful. So it's the headquarters for Capital One where we are today. Nestle, Owen, Hilton, Coffee with Ken. How do you attract all these amazing companies?
Ken, it is great to be on the show with you, first of all. You and I have known each other for a while. We've wanted to do this for some time, and what a special opportunity for me.
No pressure in front of 200 people.
I will tell you, one of the things, you asked about, what is it about Virginia and why is it so successful? One of the things I like to say in economic development, we're known for sort of being marketing and sales people, if you will, sort of known for the transactions. That's really important. Virginia does that very, very well. I think the bigger thing Virginia does well is that we have an awesome product to sell. Virginia is an amazing business investor location. And it's why you see so many different types of businesses, so many different types of industries locating here and expanding. That's the other thing, that when a new business locates, it's a lot of headlines, but reality is more than 2/3 of the projects that we work on and announce are projects that are basically expansions of existing Virginia businesses that are thriving in all parts of the Commonwealth. And that's awesome. So, part of the reason why Virginia is such a strong business location is because Virginia is incredibly strong on all of the fundamentals. Think about all of the things that you need to be successful in business, particularly in a very competitive global economic environment. You need a great location where you have connectivity to the world's markets, and that means not just surface transportation like roads and rail, but it also means air connections to around the world. We have one of the most sophisticated port complexes on the East Coast. We also have the strongest sort of fiber connectivity of any place in the world, literally. And so it is a enormously well-placed state. It's right in the middle of the East Coast. It's next to the nation's capital. But in addition to that, Virginia is also a place where you can get the strongest answer to what is typically the most important factor in a business's decision about where to locate or expand, and that is talent. This place is incredibly rich in talent. It's one of the most educated states in the country. We have great schools, we've got great universities, colleges. We also have, for a project that is looking to locate somewhere, expand, and create a lot of jobs, we have the most comprehensive solution to what is typically their biggest sort of headache and worries. And where do I find all the people I need? And how do I recruit them? How do I train them? We've got a great answer to that. And then we call it the Virginia Talent Accelerator Program. You can look it up. Dozens and dozens of companies are using this as we partner with them, and I'll tell you more about it in the course of the conversation. But we can also, if they're not looking for the full service solution, we've got incentive programs that can help offset recruitment and training costs. That's a big part of it. But also a huge part of it is just, there's always an X factor. There's always an X factor with every single project where there's going to be some, kind of issue that comes up where, hey, we weren't expecting this thing. We've never dealt with this before, or there's some kind of personal preference for the decision maker at the company. And because the Virginia economic development model is so smart, so responsive, so thoughtful, where you have deep partnerships between the state, the regional, the local levels, all the different players at the table, really good at solving problems as they come up. And so it's a very forward-thinking, solutions-oriented state where all of the fundamentals are strong, but we can also address the X factor. And that is a huge part of why we've been so successful.
And I think this gathering that we're a part of for your conference is a testament to that, right? You have economic development leaders from across the Commonwealth who are here to be a part of this dialogue. So when we go out and we do site selection, we have a kind of, short narrative of what we focus on. It's people, power, place. That's what we kind of like to boil it down to. So focusing first on the people front, we got to spend some time yesterday touring Amazon's H&U2. And I was kind of, impressed with the response from Amazon about why the Commonwealth won. It wasn't because it was the highest incentives. It was part of a broader narrative around the Commonwealth making a decision to invest in itself on the talent side. So I think it was right when you came to Virginia that this kind of process starts. So maybe take us a little bit behind the scenes to the Amazon deal, how HQ2 ended up here, and how the talent investment was part of that win.
Yeah, well, the consultants that are here in Virginia today got to see a tour of HQ2 yesterday. That was just awesome. You see what one of the world's leading innovation companies is doing in Virginia. Its East Coast headquarters. So I'm going to take you back for a second to 2017, 2018. This was actually a very unusual economic development project in a couple of different respects. One is what everybody knows, which is that it was a very large project, one of the largest economic development projects in history. But the other thing that made it very unusual is that it was a very public project. So Amazon basically said, hey, we want to find, our home for our second headquarters. We're going to look across North America. Very public process. 238 different communities across North America responded to that call.
Versus normally, you give a project like a code name and
it says, and the public doesn't find out about it until the announcement. So, in the course of pursuing that project, we knew that we were going to have to, really put Virginia's best foot forward on all of the different factors that we just talked about, all the fundamentals. And we knew that Virginia had a strong story. But we also knew that even though, as we dug into the data, even though we knew that Virginia had one of the strongest tech talent stories in America, when you look at just how big the demand was in the market for tech talent, there was still a gap. Even though we were a leader, there was still a gap. And so we thought, there's a lot of places that can write a big check. There are not a lot of places that have as strong of a tech talent story as we have here in Virginia. And there's probably not a lot of places that are going to be able to double down on that as boldly as Virginia did to win that project, to win HQ2. And so it was this incredible milestone for Virginia in so many respects. I mean, I think partly for the announcement of HQ2 helped to signal to the entire world Virginia's complete transformation to private sector innovation. Virginia is known as a place of, great universities, great R&D. You've got all of this aerospace and defense, just leading edge stuff in Virginia. But I don't think the world completely understood just how strong the private sector innovation story was. And so Amazon's location here really helped put an exclamation point on that. But to win that project, and you asked about, you touched on ecosystems a second ago. What we realized is that the biggest thing that we could do to strike a successful partnership with Amazon was to really strengthen the ecosystem that they needed to thrive in Virginia. And what we did was we worked very closely with partners across the whole state, including here in Northern Virginia, in Arlington and Alexandria in particular, and we worked together to actually develop a solution that would double the tech talent degree production in Virginia, to double the production of computer science and related degrees, not just at universities in Northern Virginia and community colleges in Northern Virginia, but at public institutions across the entire state. And what that meant was that not only were we developing a solution that hit the most important site selection factor for Amazon, but we did it in a way that benefited every region of the Commonwealth, because it was an investment in one of the top talent needs for virtually every region of the state. And so I think that really spoke to Amazon. And in a similar way, we knew that they wanted to be in a physical environment where, their offices would have this just seamless, awesome experience for people, frankly. And so you saw yesterday just the transformation of that space in Arlington, Virginia, where now, you've got 8 6,000 Amazonians. And part of the way we did that is by making sure that we were in a kind of knitting together the physical sort of cityscape to make sure that it was an awesome experience that could rival any city in the world.
So in your role, in the role of everyone around the room today, you have to constantly be reactive to project demands, but also be forward thinking and proactive about the storytelling of your own community, around the Commonwealth, etc. So as we see this resurgence in advanced manufacturing, how does the Commonwealth kind of prepare itself or potentially pivot to meet that future demand? Well, what I'm talking about is the best and brightest out there who have created apps and social media for the last 10 to 12 years now are really making a material pivot to actually making things. We're manufacturing from space to defense to EVs to battery and climate tech. There seems to be this kind of bubbling emergence of reshoring, manufacturing, kind of owning our destiny in the United States, matched by federal investment, whether it's through contracts, through grants, through loans, etc. How is Virginia going to stay ahead of the curve to meet a bubbling manufacturing need that's coming up?
Yeah, well,
It's both on the code side and also the power side. Sorry, because I want to lead into, there's a big power story here in Virginia, especially with data centers.
absolutely.
Energy.
Yeah, so you said both talent and power, right? Yeah, so, you asked a lot about advanced manufacturing. One of the most exciting sectors right now, in part because there's a lot of change, there's a lot of possibility. I would say, first of all, we're positioning ourselves to succeed in almost any scenario. And part of that is we're making sure that Virginia is strong on all the fundamentals. We talked a bit about talent earlier. But another big part of that is just making sure that you have a physical place for these advanced manufacturing investments to land. If you do not have a fully project-ready site that is not just a clear piece of land that is titled and zoned, but also where you have all the necessary permitting in place, the utilities at scale that will work for advanced manufacturing. We're talking water and sewer. We're talking electricity, we're talking gas, we're talking rail and so forth. You need to have all those things in place. Everything else can be awesome. If you don't have the project-ready industrial site, you are going to lose, even if everything else is awesome. So a big part of it is we're focusing on those fundamentals. And I'll get back to the power question in just a second, because that's a big part of having that project-ready site. Power that's available on day one, but also power that can scale as the operation scales. But a big part of what we're doing is making sure that we're putting the most energy into the manufacturing segments that are likely going to produce the largest amount of jobs. And so we've created a whole team that is very dedicated to this, that has industry expertise to focus on the segments that are likely going to be kind of the biggest sources of the singles and doubles and triples as far as you can see into the future, building on Virginia's strengths. And I'm talking about things like advanced materials, where you see incredible manufacturing capabilities across the Commonwealth. I'm talking about things like food and beverage manufacturing. I'm talking about things like advanced pharmaceutical manufacturing, where you're going to see Virginia emerge as one of the next great pharmaceutical manufacturing hubs. We're going to win the bigger stuff too, which depends so significantly on having a large project-ready site. And these are things that are in some ways kind of hard to categorize. I think about something like the expansion of Micron's semiconductor facility. I think about the Prince William County, just down the road. I think about, for example, Lego's only U.S. manufacturing facility, which is underway in Chesterfield County. There's lots of examples like that of just these microporous in Southern Virginia. Lots of examples like that. But I also think it's important that we kind of nurture the niches. You've got these emerging sectors that are going to have a manufacturing component. I think about things like quantum computing. I think about things like commercial space, for example. Virginia is one of the few places in the country where you can launch a rocket into space from the East Bay Shore.
And so far, just on that exact notion here in Fairfax County, I know Victor Hoskins and Fairfax Economic Development are really leading in on aerospace.
Really? Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, what you see in Fairfax and other communities in Northern Virginia is places that are really kind of looking kind of ahead of the curve and thinking about, okay, what are going to be the big sources of job creation over the next 10, 20 years, quantum computing, commercial space and so forth. So yeah, absolutely. It's super exciting. What's the common element here? One of the common elements is power, right? And this is something that states around the country are struggling with. One of the real advantages of Virginia is that dealing with complex electricity and energy challenges are nothing new to Virginia. Part of that is because we are the world's leader in data centers, frankly. And so, when you look to Virginia, you're looking at a place that is incredibly good at not only delivering power at scale, but also doing it in a way that is incredibly secure, that is incredibly good at mitigating risks in terms of the timely delivery. Also really good at making sure that we are doing it in a way that evolves with the complex needs of the customer. And so I think, one of the things you're going to see in Virginia is other states kind of struggle to kind of up their power game is you have the utility partners here that are, that are deeply, deeply experienced in serving some of the largest and most sophisticated power users in the world.
And even diversifying power access, right? So whether it's offshore wind in Southern Virginia, I think Commonwealth Fusion announced a forward look.
Yeah, it's a great example. I mean, Virginia, when you look at our energy mix, very, very diverse. So you see traditional sources here. Virginia's a big nuclear state. We're a big natural gas state. But you've also seen a lot of solar going. You've seen offshore wind. But as you mentioned, Ken, just a few years ago, you saw the world's first nuclear fusion commercial scale facility announced. That was right here in Virginia in Chesterfield Town.
So talk a little bit about the structure of VEDP within the Commonwealth, how you partner with state government, how this is a bit of a unique model. Not every state does it the way EDP does, right? So what are the advantages of that? What can site selectors and companies expect when they come to your office to request the opportunity to conduct business?
Yeah, one of the real advantages of Virginia in terms of economic development is the VEDP model. We are not unique in this respect, that we are very unusual in that we are a nonpartisan authority where we don't change leadership, we don't change strategy just because there's a political event. So we have the advantage of having sort of a long-term strategy. We have the advantage of developing some really, really sophisticated capabilities that you can't create in just a year or two. We also have a team that is not only strong, but that is really experienced at this work, that can do a lot of different things really well. But the other X factor of this is that you have a team that is really familiar with all of the other important pieces that you need to have economic development success. Part of that is something that you see here at the Virginia Consultants Forum, where you have these state, regional, local partnerships, that are on display, where we're working together to tell the full Virginia story. But it also shows up in the way that VEDP interacts with other parts of state government, where we have deep relationships with the folks at the Department of Environmental Quality and at the Department of Transportation, where we know the person at the tax department who knows that kind of arcane issue that the business is asking about. And what we recognized is that we need to take that exceptional strength of partnership and invest it in something that we think is going to make the economic development enterprise here even stronger. What we realized is that in Virginia, you have this unique opportunity not only to be great at the transaction, kind of putting together the deal, but in taking a long-term approach to cultivating the ecosystems that are going to enable businesses here to thrive. I mean, we've started to talk about that already today. And then in America, you've got this sort of tight labor market, and about the importance of helping the businesses that are already in your state or in your community thrive. The idea that as technology advances, we're going to see maybe fewer jobs, but higher paid jobs, so things like that. So as we get into these trends, I think it's going to be more and more important that economic developers are taking this sort of holistic approach, not just focused on the transaction, helping to create deep partnerships with companies and the consultants that represent them, so that these companies can thrive over the lumber train.
Talk about the significance of the Commonwealth being so close to Washington, right? The Pentagon is in Virginia, the CIA, Quantico, aircraft carriers are built here. What is that thread in competitive advantage maybe Virginia has by having these deep kind of roots with the federal government?
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge advantage. I like to say that we have all the advantages of being in the nation's capital without being in the nation's capital. So it is first of all, so many businesses have a sort of a federal kind of regulatory component. Particularly when you think about some of the some of the advanced innovative businesses that are either regulated or where there's an environment, a policy environment that's kind of rapidly evolving, where there needs to be a deep partnership between the industry and the federal government. So in Virginia, you have access to all of those policymakers, all of the implementers of federal policy, while you have the benefit also of actually locating the business in one of America's absolute top business environments. CNBC just ranked us number one again on so many advantages that we've talked about. And so, I think you see that in a number of ways. You see that, first of all, in the huge density of corporate headquarters that are located in Virginia, that part of the reason why they're here is because you have the nation's capital in the backyard. Part of it also is because of our connectivity to the rest of the globe, because we're next to America's capital city. But also you see it across Virginia, and you think about the first fusion commercial scale energy generator. I think part of the reason why they're in Virginia is they know that this is a very, very convenient place to plant a flag for building an entirely new industry.
So as you look around at your past experience, you were in Louisiana previously. So I want to kind of get to resiliency, right? You were there during Hurricane Katrina. Totally different environment now, but there's so much uncertainty in the world, especially in this region with DOGE, global geopolitical challenges. How do you look back on your personal career, what you went through to, whether it was Katrina or other aspects of your career around resiliency and how to kind of stay ahead of the curve and continue to move forward?
Yeah, I think part of it, and this might sound a little bit cliche, but I think the one thing that we can depend on is that things are going to change. Things are going to change. In the environment that we're seeing now, they appear to be changing more and more rapidly. So I think places that are positioned to pivot, places that have the strategic planning, but also the operational capacity to pivot quickly are going to be advantage. The other thing I would say is for people who are choosing this profession, crises and other moments of great change are also incredible opportunities to grow and to learn. I think about my own career in economic development. I mean, a big part of why I am where I am today is because of Hurricane Katrina. You mentioned I kind of grew up in Louisiana. I wasn't really planning an economic development career, but Hurricane Katrina changed all of that. All of a sudden, I was in Louisiana's capital city when it was dealing with a generational crisis. It was an opportunity for somebody at his mid-20s to get involved in this incredible moment of recovery and response to one of the great natural disasters of American history. But it also helped me discover a profession that I have been in now for 20 years that continues to give back to me. And it's been incredible there.
As you get to stay competitive nationally, right? The geographic map from a site selector perspective seems to be wide open, right? People are building batteries in Nevada and Arizona and South Carolina. Utah is trying to position itself for aerospace. Chicago wants to be known for quantum as well. Tulsa's leaning in on drones. How do you stay ahead of the curve? And should the communities in this room be thinking about creating their own identity? Or is it too risky to kind of double down on a particular sector or bucket?
I think you have to know what you want to go after. So and I think about it sort of as a portfolio strategy. I think that's particularly important at the state level. One of Virginia's greatest strengths, as I mentioned earlier, is that this is a place where you can do almost anything from a business perspective, from an economic developer perspective. There are very few sectors that do not have a place in Virginia where they can thrive. And so I think at the state level, it is essential that we have a portfolio strategy that altogether has pieces in that portfolio that are relevant to every part of Virginia. One of the hallmarks of VEDP strategy is we want the Commonwealth overall to thrive, but we want to achieve progress in the Commonwealth where every part of Virginia participates in that progress. And so what that means is we need a strategy at the state level that is relevant to every part of Virginia in terms of the kinds of industry sectors that we're trying to cultivate. And when I think about that portfolio, we've got to focus on the things that are likely going to create the largest numbers of jobs over the next decade or so. And so Virginia, what that means is, things that you would have traditionally done in an office environment that still largely happen in an office. I'm talking about headquarters, I'm talking about business and financial services, aerospace and defense, innovation, software and cyber, but also particular segments of advanced manufacturing that we know are going to create a lot of jobs. And there's going to be more and more advanced materials created as innovation happens in the materials science and in the manufacturing sector. We know that food and beverage is going to continue to innovate, change their products, cycle and so forth. We know that we are at the dawn of new breakthroughs in advanced pharmaceutical manufacturing. So we're going to focus on all of that stuff. But we also need to make sure that we are nurturing the niches that are likely going to create significant amounts of jobs in the longer term future. I'm thinking about things like commercial space, so talking about quantum computing, some of the things we've touched on earlier. I will also say that for communities around Virginia, I think it's important that they understand their strengths so that they're able to kind of own and communicate what it is that they're trying to achieve. Fortunately, Virginia's communities and regions do that extraordinarily well. The last thing I'll say on this is that, and this goes back to the point you made about being ready to pivot. When you look at, sort of VEDP's project pipeline, the hundreds of projects that we're managing in a given year, and you try to put those into different industry segments, what is the largest single industry segment? It's always the other category. The other category is always the biggest one. And so you've got to be prepared to respond to those opportunities that you can't, sort of totally prepare for, but you have to be able to pivot and give them the same kind of focused attention and responsiveness and really nail all of the key things that are being asked about. And that's the great news, because there's no business that doesn't want a great talent solution. There's no business that doesn't want a great real estate solution. There's no business that doesn't want an incredibly smart, responsive, capable partner to help them locate and thrive for many years to come.
So much of it is about storytelling, developing a brand, and a message that you can share.
Yeah, and the capabilities back all of that up.
Yeah. So one of the things I think I love about what I do, and I think my fellow site selectors do, is the tangible impact these projects make on communities. So maybe you could just spend, as we wind down here, what have you seen in your career about the impact that large-scale projects have on communities to transform them in the direction maybe they're headed?
Yeah.
I mean, part of this is like you have kind of offshore manufacturing for decades, and now it's kind of roaring back a little bit. So it's just an exciting moment, I think, to really tangibly have an impact on communities that maybe will fall behind.
Yeah, I mean, this is economic development is an incredibly fun, fast-moving team sport. And we're running hard, we're working together, just trying to keep up with the calls, trying to make sure kind of nail that little thing that the project is asking about, making sure that we're solving all of the different problems, whether we're working at a community or working at the state level, engaging with the business. We're kind of hustling all the time, right? And when you're in that moment, it's important that you take a step back and take stock and say, well, why are we actually doing this? Like, why do we do this work? Why do we work so far? Why are we so passionate? And we talk about that. We talk about it at VEDP. We talk about it here in the Virginia Economic Development Community. Mm-hmm. And fundamentally, it's about our purpose. Our purpose is to enrich lives, it's to enrich communities, and it's to enrich the Commonwealth of Virginia. Through the excellence in our work and economic development, let's talk about that. Like, what does it really mean to enrich a life? It means that the work that we're doing is helping to secure jobs in communities across Virginia that pay more than the average wage in the area where those jobs are being created. And what that means is that for like half or more of the people who live in a place, the work that we're doing is a shot at a better life. And so we hear about, the people who benefit from our projects. They get to buy a home, they get to take a family vacation. Like, who can't feel good about that work? It is fundamentally, intrinsically important, but it's also enriching communities. not just been giving them a deeper sense of purpose where they help provide something that's important to America, that's important to the world, where they're helping to produce safer, cheaper pharmaceuticals, where they're helping to provide the thing that gets the rocket into space. Like it's not just that, but it's actually enriching their bottom line. For the average project that we're doing adds millions of dollars on net into the bottom line of local communities, helping to enrich schools, helping to provide for schools or roads and all sorts of public services. Same thing at the state level. Every dollar that Virginia puts into economic development, whether it's EEP's budget or incentive, that's returning $7 to the general fund. There's very few parts of government that actually are wealth creating. This is a wealth creating. So if you care about it's true ROI, whether you care about schools, whether you care about infrastructure, whether you care about all kinds of quality of life issues, you should support economic development. So you can tell I'm passionate about this. This work enriches lives, communities, and our state through the excellent work that we do together.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jason El Koubi.